Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the May 3rd, 2017 City Council workshop meeting, followed by the regular meeting. Testing.
Let's do it. Good evening. I'd like to call to order a City Council workshop, May 3rd, 2017, approximately 6:52 p.m. The reason for the workshop is to interview board applicants. So we have 2 interviews tonight. Gentlemen, they're very easy. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure most of us know everybody here. So, Ryan, if you would, please, very informal, just sit there, make sure the microphone's up because it does get recorded. Tell us a little bit about yourself, for those who...
Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Okay. My name's Ryan Miller. I'm a resident of the city. I've been in the city now for just over 2 years. I'm speaking with my neighbor and friend. He was telling me that there's a spot on the police and fire pension board. I'm somebody that likes to give back to the community, and being a career firefighter and paramedic, I figured that might be a good fit for me. I understand what it entails as far as a job. I've been on both sides of the collective bargaining agreement. Where I work at, St. Lucie County, we're also a member of the Florida League of Cities, which I understand Satellite Beaches as well. I spoke with Thomas here in the city. He had me speak with young lady Stephanie at the Florida League of Cities to learn about the size of the pension, how many people we have in here. I guess right now there's about 36 active members, 22 retirees. So it's a sizable pension, about 80% funded right now, which is fantastic. This is just something I'd like to be able to participate in. I think I've got some good insight, what it takes to be a member, and also I think I would be a good contact person for the police and firefighters to speak with. I can relate.
Great.
Any questions, sir?
All right, let me start.
Got no questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to defer to Dominic since I know he knows a little bit more about these boards
Sure.
and
Hey,
what
Ryan.
they entail.
Sir, how are you?
Good. Basically, you're not there to interact with the staff at all.
Right.
This particular board seat is just basically to oversee the city's portion of the pension.
Yes.
So interacting with staff is not what you do. You're not there on their behalf. You're actually there on the city's behalf, not the police or the firefighter. So
Yes.
I just want to make that clear. They also meet quarterly on a Thursday at 2 o'clock. Is that something that's time-wise going to be a problem?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And I just for, the record, I know Ryan, and he lives
know
around
Ryan.
the corner from me, so.
That won't
Thank
be
you
held
for
against me, will it,
volunteering.
Dominic?
What's that?
That's not going to be held against me, is it?
Do you have any questions?
Just one, Ryan. If there is not a spot or you're not appointed to this particular board, is there another board you'd be interested in getting involved in?
I have no problem participating. I would not be against that.
Okay.
I can't think any boards off the top of my
Right.
head, but I have no problem.
Okay.
I enjoy being a member of the community
Okay.
and giving back here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Norm, let me ask you this, just since both of them are here. I looked in our packet here. We have no openings on either board at this
Not
time.
currently. There have been internal discussions with 2 members that were questionable at this time.
Correct.
So I've not received any resignations or anything to that effect.
Okay, so, but at this time, as it
There's
goes,
none.
there isn't any?
Yes.
Okay, just so everybody
Yes.
knows. And your application will be kept and when an opening comes up?
Yes.
Okay.
But the only thing I have in the meantime is, do we want to get him involved in another way? I'm not pushing that. The man's here, and this could be...
I know he wants to, one of my thinkings here real quick is there possibly could be an opening on both. Okay? In the case, we have 2 people here qualified, one a fireman, one a person who's been associated with the fire for a while. Therefore, we engage 2 people, one new one, into our system if it becomes open. So My feeling is because of Brian's background, he could help us in that field, and rather than put him on a board that he's not familiar with, that this might be something that, and maybe that'll
Well,
clear up.
the only concern that I have is, when you put people on this board, you already have a firefighter on the board, and you have a police officer on the board.
Right.
And the appointees that we're looking at are people that are going to reflect the city, not the police or fire department. And I would rather, and this is nothing against your qualifications,
Sure.
but if there's someone who doesn't have an association with the fire or police, that aren't going to advocate for the police or fire because they're not there to advocate for police or fire, then I would rather see someone in that capacity. I understand, that we may have two positions open, but we don't at this point, so.
Well, right
So
now,
we
it's
get to
not
that
because
point.
it's a vote between us, and I feel that he's a citizen of the town, too, so he's kind of in both, so. Again, Ryan, thank you. We won't be voting tonight because we have no opinions at this time, but we will definitely get hold and let you know when we do.
Two things,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor. I do feel that I've got a good working knowledge, Dominic, of how these things work, the 175, the 185, and I do understand that I'd be on the city side, not the police and firefighter side. But I do think that knowledge that I have would give me a leg up and ease that transition into the role.
That's the only concern I have, Ron.
Yes, sir.
is I don't need another advocate there.
I
I need
understand.
somebody that's going to represent the city's interests,
Yes.
not one of the other agency issues.
Right. I agree with you.
Okay.
Mr. Bremer?
Yeah.
As far as serving on another board, I have no problem with that. Would that hinder me from serving on this board, though? You can't do both?
Well, you can't, you want to do it, Frank? I mean, you can't do both.
Right.
But, I'm always, if somebody's volunteering and they want to get involved, I'm always one of these that wants to get involved.
Sure.
You can resign from the board and go on to the other board.
Okay.
But I just don't want to leave you hanging out there, because sometimes people walk away and say, gosh, I didn't get appointed, what a waste of time that was. We want to get you involved if we can, but.
No, I'll be back.
Great.
Okay.
Further questions? Brian, thanks. And
Thank you,
we'll
guys.
be definitely in contact with you.
Thanks,
Dave?
Ryan.
Well, because you just have that on file.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening. Dave Ryan, resident 34 years. 34 years as a volunteer at the fire department. Previously a part-time dispatcher at the police department. I volunteer presently in both organizations. Previous time as on both boards as general employees and police fire here in the city. I don't remember how many years, it's more than 2. I'm fully familiar with the fiduciary responsibility of the board. I've been to the class, state-sponsored class twice on pension board oversight.
Dave, I think everybody here knows you. Let me just see how much, any questions?
No, I know.
And basically, it's the same thing Frank said. Right now, there isn't any positions. and,
Understood.
We're just
believe-
interviewing.
I talked to Dave earlier, we had a pretty good conversation on that.
I'm not certain, but I believe that the two people in question are both presently members of both boards.
Mhm.
And if they do, then there'll be 2 openings on both boards. So,
Any other questions for Dave? Dave, thank you for going through the process, even though we've known you.
Thanks, Dave.
You help out great in the community.
Just trying to
Thank
help.
you. Any further questions concerning board applicants? He's already been interviewed. We did him first,
Those are things at the end.
just so it's here for the end. Gotcha. Okay? Hearing no further, meeting's adjourned, and, everybody ready?
Let's do it.
Hold on.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, May 3rd, 2017, approximately 7:05. Please join Councilman Brimer for a pledge and a moment of silence.
So please rise for a moment of silence. If you join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, we have a proclamation recognizing May 7th, 2017 as National Explosive Ordnance Disposal Day. And our Vice Mayor, Steve Osmer, will handle the presentation. And thank you, gentlemen, for coming. We'll take you with you when you go.
I'd like to have you guys come up front here with me, please. This is kind of like when we have all the policemen, we really want to say place right now. Thank you for everybody coming. Some of you may not know, but at one time I served in the Air Force as one of these EOD members. So I'm going to read a little thing first, talk a little bit about the EOD, and I'll read the proclamation. EOD is Explosive Ordnance Disposal. It represents the military bomb squad and many of those who follow on to the civilian bomb squads. They respond to bomb threats, have served in wars and conflicts worldwide, and support our space program at every launch and unfortunate disasters. Similar to the firefighter who runs into a burning building, EOD technicians take the long walk towards a bomb or explosive device and render safe while all others run the other way. EOD technicians don't have the luxury to turn down a mission or pass the task to somebody else. It is that, in my opinion, that there is no more challenging or courageous occupational field across all the military services than the EOD technician. The unofficial motto of EOD is initial success or total failure. It is not taken lightly by members in the field, and the caucus emphasized it reflects their training, attitude, and drive to be the absolute best at what they do, while still knowing and accepting both the dangers and the fate that may await them. Expressing support for the designation of the first Saturday in May as National Explosive Ordnance Disposal Day by House Resolution 624, and a memorial ceremony is held to commemorate fallen EOD technicians to recognize and preserve the legacy of the service and the sacrifices of our fallen warriors and families. This year will be the 48th Explosive Ordnance Disposal Memorial Ceremony, which will be held at the EOD Memorial at Kaufman EOD Training Complex at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. We will remember 320 of our fallen and place 6 more fellow EOD brethren on the EOD wall this year. As the names of each service member's fallen EOD heroes are read aloud, it concludes with the phrase, "We remember." We remember. EOD technicians of all services make a solemn promise when we enter the EOD community that we will never forget. We will never forget those heroes, our EOD brothers and sisters who have gone before us, their bravery, courage, and ultimate sacrifice. So, an official proclamation of the City of Satellite Beach, Florida, whereas the bomb and mine disposal profession was created in April 1941, and whereas members of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal organizations perform a dangerous and selfless task, often without recognition, risking their lives on behalf of the United States, and whereas the United States will forever be in debt to the personnel in this profession of explosive ordnance disposal for their bravery and sacrifice in times of peace and war, and whereas the people of the United States should express their recognition and gratitude for members of the explosive ordnance disposal profession, and whereas the City of Satellite Beach supports and encourages the community to observe the first Saturday in May as National Explosive Ordnance Disposal Day, and to honor those who are serving and have served in this noble and self-sacrificing profession of explosive ordnance disposal in the United States Armed Forces. Now, therefore, Frank Picatino, Mayor of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim that May 6, 2017 as National Explosive Ordnance Disposal Day. Thank you, guys. Get a picture?
Of course.
Good.
Satellite Beach. Thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Suzanne's going to.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 4, recognition of the City Employee of the Year Awards for 2016. Suzanne?
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, as you know, we had our Employee of the Year luncheon event. It was a great time. We invite all of the employees together. We meet at the Pelican Beach Clubhouse, and we award different recognitions for employees. And we just wanted to mention this publicly tonight. We didn't require that these people come in on their, off hours to be at the council meeting, but I want to just mention out for the record the 4 people that received awards this time, and they were all very deserving. We have 4 different categories, as you can see in the agenda packet. The first is actually for a volunteer, and the Volunteer of the Year this year was Sally McAllister. Many of you know her. She's part of the Stop By and Say Hi program. She's just a very loving type of person who cares very much about all the people that she visits and takes care of, and so she was really appreciative of the recognition. We had a part-time employee of the year was Brianna Dragon, and many of you may remember we actually recognized her previously here at council meeting because she's one of our part-time school crossing guards, and she actually helped to save a child who was on a bike and just drove right into the canal essentially, and she acted quickly without hesitation and saved that child, and the little girl was fine. The Full-Time Employee of the Year award went to a member of our Building and Zoning team, Kelly Porter, and John's been a very staunch advocate. Thank you, John. And Kelly is just a great all-around employee. She helps out with code enforcement, does a lot of things in the office, very good with customers, and on top of all that, she was a key member of our Relay for Life team, and as you know, we raised over $8,000 this year. So really, really proud of her, and she's very deserving of that award. And this year, we had a new award for the first time called an Open Heart Award, and we're not talking about open heart surgery. We're talking about people who are just giving and represent what we hope that all of our employees exemplify. And this year's first year of the award, it went to our community paramedic, Melanie Drake, and many of you know her and how just giving she is in our community to help people in need, and she's one of those, again, who goes above and beyond. So we just wanted to mention that for you all and for the public who's here. Just we're very proud of our employees, our volunteers, and we're just glad to be able to recognize them in this way.
Great. Thank you very, very much, and to all our employees who did just a great job. Thank you for your service during the year. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5 is citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. I'll take citizens of our town first, and then any other person who would like to speak on any non-agenda item. So citizens, any citizen first? Seeing, hearing none? Podium's open for anybody who would like to speak. 3 minutes.
I'd like to speak.
Come up, please. And, yes, ma'am. State your name when you're here, and where you're from, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Susan Bibby, and I'm from Anchor Drive, Indian Harbour Beach. My property, home, backs on to your skateboard park. I'm here tonight to ask you all for help. I wrote to each of you last week explaining my situation, and I'd just like to know, did you all receive my letter? So you know where I'm coming from. Could I ask you if any of you have visited the park and heard the noise that I have to listen to from my home all the time? Has anybody experienced this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The park's open now 79 hours a week, which is 42 hours a week more than it was previously. During the spring break, which was the first really holiday week, the noise was horrendous from before 10 in the morning till either 9 at night or 10 at night. It's ruined our quality of life in the day. My husband and I have got a beautiful garden. We love to sit out. And at the weekend, it's impossible because the noise, it just Everybody knows what a bad noise is like, and that's what it is. So I want to ask you all, is there any way you could reconsider the hours that you've voted in? I must add also that the park's not been closing on time, and I've had to send for the police on many, many occasions. This gentleman here knows. And this is what I'm here to ask your help. If you can in any way, help me.
Let me just say this. I know we have, I feel very strongly about our staff, our city manager,
Yeah.
each of the department heads,
Yeah,
how they handle our city in
Yeah.
situations like
Yeah.
this.
yeah.
I know you've been working, because I have been getting all the emails.
Okay, that's fine,
back
yeah,
between
yeah.
you and Courtney,
Yeah,
and Courtney, I
yeah.
know, has given
Yeah.
you her personal cell phone number
Yeah,
and so forth.
Mhm.
And I know you're in process of working together with her.
yeah,
The council at this time has no intentions to take in a vote to change the hours. We're going to go by direction from the city manager and staff if they bring it back to us in
Yeah.
this situation.
yeah,
I'm sorry that that's going on. I've got your letter here. I've seen other emails
Yeah,
that I
good.
get on it. And also, a few things have been done this week. We've retrained the staff, for one thing,
Yeah.
about closing the park
yeah,
and opening the park. The lights are now on timers.
Right.
They're going off. No one can get in there and open them up.
okay.
As what was happening before this park was open, they probably shouldn't have been there skating. And I know from talking to Officer Barrios and the park police chief
Yeah.
that they were making constant calls out there
Yeah.
trying to stop them. I know the kids during spring break were very anxious to have that skate park. The skate park's been there for a number of years. That skate park has been there.
92.
Yeah, it's the first skate park in the
Yeah.
county.
I was there then.
Right, and that was a sewage treatment plant.
I know
And
that
it was
too.
turned
Yeah.
into a recreation
Yeah,
facility.
Mhm.
So I'm going to defer that for the time being. We
Mm-hmm.
know about the situation. And I know my city manager, my assistant city manager, and our rec director have been working on this issue with
Yeah.
you. And also, I know Public Works has about putting up a barrier there for you,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of vegetation barrier to help deaden that sound.
Yeah.
So at this time, I appreciate your letter. I very much appreciate you coming. I would recommend you to please continue working with the staff. They're very much aware of it. I know you've been calling Courtney. She's nice enough to give her phone number out
yeah,
to call, her at after hours. My recommendation to you would be, please work with them. Call Courtney during the daytime. She's very receptive to that. I don't think we're going to have the issue with the lights any longer with the timer. I know the rec department has trained their employees now to start closing a half hour before the allotted time. And so that way, 10 o'clock comes, everybody's out of there. And if somebody is there during the hours they're not supposed to be, they're trespassing, and that's an issue with the police department. But I know it's in everybody's minds, and they're working on it, okay?
I understand that what you're saying about, the not closing and that, but it still doesn't help me with the 79 hours a week that I have to listen to. And it is bad.
I understand that. We're going to try to rectify that with
Yeah.
some kind of barrier, vegetation-wise and so forth, to do it.
But,
So, and one of the things from our city I can tell you, for almost ever, that we don't lock any of our facilities. Our baseball fields and the soccer fields there are open for the children to play. It is a recreation facility, and, we have a need and a want from the people in our community for that park, or we sure wouldn't have that number of people there. So work with us on it. Let's see if the vegetation, if that's a way, will help. As coming right out now, I can't promise you that those hours will be changed. But I'm going to rely on my staff's input coming back to us as council to handle this.
Okay.
Okay?
All
And
right.
please work with Courtney. She's
I
really good.
I do work with her.
Well, I know
But,
you do,
know,
because she said
like
you,
for
but
the
I would
last
ask
4
you to do
nights.
th- Well, but I was going to ask you if you would please do
Yeah.
this for her sake too. She's one of the nicest ladies you'll ever meet.
Yes, I appreciate
She
that.
very much appreciates hearing from you and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to see the phone number and push the button because it's 10:30 at night.
Mm-hmm. And I don't
She
want to
works
listen
hard.
to the skateboard
Well,
at 10:30
we're
at
not
night
going to have,
either.
then I would recommend you call the police department if they're out there
Yeah.
at 10:30. That's what my recommendation to you. If
Yeah.
they're there at
Mm.
10:30, they're wrong, because they're supposed to be out of there, they've been schooled, the lights are off at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, well, I'll have
Thank
to
you.
accept that. It's not, it's the hours really, but
Okay.
I'll have to continue, obviously. All right, thank
Thank
you
you
for your
very much.
time. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am, appreciate it. The public comment's still open. Okay. Hearing none, close the public comment, citizens' comment, and move on to city council comments. Mindy?
Not too much went on. The mayor and I served schlop for the Surfside Backyard Barbecue for a good 3 or 4 hours. No, it's actually delicious food that we did not get to eat, but we had to smell it, and we were, I know I was starving by the end of it. It was a really good experience to be with the community. My kids go to Surfside, so it was nice seeing, and then our awesome fire department came out and hosed them down. And they loved it, and I loved watching it. And I did attend the employee luncheon, and it was interesting and fun. We have some great people. I mean, it must have been hard to pick who you were going to give those awards to. I mean, we are a very lucky city for the people that we have that work for us. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks. We had a detective retire, and that was an interesting party. And it was sad to see him go. And I went to that retirement, and now I'm here. So,
Thank you.
that's it.
Dominic?
On Saturday morning, the 22nd, at 2 in the morning, I represented our city at the second flight that went out from Honor Flight to Washington for 25 veterans from Brevard County. Unfortunately, there were only 3 elected officials in the room, so I don't know what happened. Usually we have anywhere from 10 to 15 people there, but for some reason, only 3 of us showed up. So if any of you are interested in going to an honor flight send off at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can send you the schedule.
I'd appreciate if you'd send me the schedule, Dominic, so that I'd know.
I'll also forward you the emails when they come, just as
That'd be great.
reminders. But other than that, I've been gone for a week, and it's good to be home. I flew in at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it's great to be back
Great,
home.
thank you. Great to have you back.
But nothing to add.
Regarding the honor flight, I ended up seeing a veteran last week. Spoke very highly of that whole thing. That's really pretty cool. I mean, they were just he was so excited. He was so excited before he left town, and then I spent probably 10 minutes talking to him about it. So it's a really nice thing.
Last flight?
Yes, he was on his last flight. So, and then went into the hospital as soon as he got back. So, it's one of those. But he sure did have a good time.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you. I did attend the Surfside Barbecue Day, and I did serve food. It was really a pretty great thing out there. I mean, it's amazing, that school, how much community involvement there is with the parents and the kids at that school. It's an amazing school for that. And the food was great. Mindy and I were there handing it out. They didn't have enough. They sold out. It was a pretty incredible crowd, and they did get sprayed down. I think that's the highlight of it. But great community turnout at that school, and it was a great day. Everybody, thank you very much for the flowers sent to my wife and I. We appreciate it very much. Any further report? Okay. City manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few things to tell you all about this evening. First of all, the summer activity brochure is out, and things are in full swing in terms of registration for our summer programs and camps. So it's available in the lobby, obviously at Recreation. A lot of good information there, and I believe it's on our website as well. Registration can be completed, online or in person. 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday at the rec department, or, again, online. Also just stating a reminder that tomorrow night we start our first of our series of town hall meetings. It'll be at 7 o'clock at the Montecito Clubhouse. We had a nice series of thank you notes this month to include, or this week to include, and I'll just read through them briefly. We had a thank you note from Diane and Herb Hobgood, and that was for the fire department for the healthy living workshops that they coordinated, as well as they were thanking Melanie Drake for her role in that process, as well as some things she put together for the workshop. We received a thank you note from Ernest Hager and his family for, again, the fire department and the paramedics, and they were commenting on the professionalism and kindness with which they were treated. Third one was a thank you note from Celeste and John Bird, and they were commending EMTs for their efficiency and compassion when they were working to save Mr. Bird's life. Again, that letter is in there.
I'd like to add, those are my next door neighbors. They couldn't have been more happy, more blessed with our fire department. And they, as I know, we live right across the street from the fire department. And, you see them come and go all the time, and you hope you never have to see them.
Mm-hmm.
But they said nothing but great things about the fire department, and especially the follow-up, the visits they made after he came back from the hospital. Again, they really complimented him on it. It was a really great thing. So
that's great. Thank you. Let's see, the fourth one we had was from Frank Armisen, thanking retired officer Barry Pettingill and Irvin Corrado for years of exemplary service to him and his family. And the last one in your packet is a thank you note from David Cesario and William Dunham for the police department and their service in helping the community. And all those are in your packet. As you know, I'm here representing Courtney. She's up in Washington, D.C., actually probably on her flight as we speak back into town, working with the EDC and folks up there to support, expansion here at the base and all the good things that will bring to our community. So from what I've heard a little bit, it sounds like it's going real well, and I'm glad that they got to do that for us. Also, you may have seen it was in the paper, but Courtney was able to speak at the Represent U.S. rally at the Vieira Government Center this past weekend, and she was talking about the home rule authority of governments, and we all know that's a big topic this year with the actions that they're taking up at the state legislature. And last item here is that the teen zone renovations have been completed. So we're excited to have that back open and running at full steam. And the last kind of a cleanup item is that we've developed a lease agreement to formalize that relationship there, and that will be coming to you, our hope is at the next council meeting. And that's all I had.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda number 8, discuss, take action on agreement with Rochelle Lowendales.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is an item that is a follow-up to our April 19th special meeting that we had, where we were discussing our sustainability action plan, our principles and practices sustainability report, and the green achievement targets. And the outcome of that meeting, in part, was to your recommendation that we engage the services of Rochelle Lowendales for the purpose of furthering the city's sustainability goals and objectives as outlined in those plans. Rochelle is actually in the audience here tonight. And essentially, this agenda item is bringing forward that agreement for your consideration. I've outlined in the agenda item some of the things that will be included in here, and I'll just read out a couple things. So this is related to overall guiding the implementation of the targets and objectives we've established in those plans, and these are related to the growth and development of the city in large part. One of the action items will include recommending changes to the city's land development regulations, essentially our codes, and getting those through the process, bringing those through the Planning Advisory Board, bringing those back to council, interacting with the public on those recommendations. And part of that will be a fairly intensive effort in creating educational materials to reach out to people, to explain to them what we're talking about, to give visual examples. So there'll be a lot of that creation aspect. And then really just the participation in presentations will be a big part of this. So what this agreement kind of outlines for you is several things. First of all, we're looking to establish this relationship for a period of 3 years. That would be the term, with 1-year extensions included. And the reason we're doing that is because this is a rather long-term process. We're going to be undertaking changing things to make our sustainability initiatives come to life. So that kind of is the first thing to tell you about. We've also included just a general out clause like we do in many of our agreements. 10 days notice either party, we can end the agreement, so that would be an option if we ever needed it. This agreement also includes the first task order, which is Exhibit A in the agreement, and right now we're estimating that will be a $10,000 to $15,000 cost for the initial efforts that Rochelle Lawandales will take on our behalf. I did want to bring to your attention that the agreement that was in the packet was modified through some additional discussion with the city attorney and with Mrs. Lawandales, and so you've got a new version on the dais tonight, and I just wanted to run through quickly with you what those changes included. First of all, there were just some very basic textual changes, basic things like consistency in language, moving from the word, contract and making it agreement instead of contract in several places throughout the agreement. There's some very minor typo corrections, but the substantive pieces were, we added a requirement for automobile insurance. So you'll see that it is on page 4 of 9. It's item number 3. That is a new addition to the agreement. We also, on page 6 of 9, we expanded section 13, independent contractor, to essentially just further protect the city's interests in stating that, we're not considering her in her capacity as a planner in any way an employee, and she has responsibilities as an independent contractor. Again, very standard language there. And those were really the only substantive changes. The rest were just, typographical corrections and clarification language. And there was no change to the cost or any of those factors.
Great.
So with that, that's really where we're at, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, first, this question, Jim, you're good with this, obviously you made those changes. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Questions from council before I open up for public comment? Hearing none, at this time open up for public comment on agenda item 8. Hearing none, bring it back to council. I'm looking forward to working with Rochelle on this. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work up to this point, and thank you. Do you have any questions for us concerning this?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it and excited to be part of the team.
Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to sign the continuing professional services contract for resiliency and sustainability planning services with Rochelle Lawandales.
Second. Thank you. I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, staff.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Moving on to agenda number 9, discuss, take action on award of request for bids for recreational bleachers. Cassie.
Thank you, Mayor. In March, the city issued a request for bid for 4 aluminum bleachers for the Satellite Beach Sports and Recreation Park. 2 of those sets would be replacing a couple that were destroyed during the hurricane. The other 2 are new additions that were budgeted in the Capital Assets Fund. Staff is, well, we had two bids that qualified, and staff is recommending we award the bid for bleachers to K Park. The budget impacts for that, the total price is going to be $21,703.16 for the 4 sets. We had budgeted $16,000 for 2, so we're getting 4 for the $21,703.16. So we're saving a little bit of money on the 2, but the additional cost is unbudgeted from the capital assets.
Question.
Fund.
Some of it was hurricane related. Do we get FEMA back on any of this?
We actually are getting some insurance proceeds for the bleachers, some reimbursement there, and we have the potential for FEMA coverage, but that's still one of our pending applications with
That what we
FEMA.
were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions?
I just have one. The additional 2 bleachers are going on the soccer fields. Two of them are for the football fields. It says the the new additions to the soccer field. Two are new
They
additions.
are
to-
actually there for the football field.
So all four of these are going at the
Mhm.
football field.
Right. The two that were destroyed at the football field,
Okay.
and
So
then
they're-
the
they're
two
not
additional
going at the
ones.
soccer field, they're for the football
Right,
field.
yeah, most of the soccer, people bring their own chairs and canopies and
Well,
things.
the only
and
reason I
they
brought it up
Don't
is-
utilize them.
The soccer field backs up to Anchor Drive also, and
Oh,
and the lady was already here about the noise from that. I just wanted to make
No,
sure if
no.
we were putting them at the soccer field, we knew exactly where they were going, so there wouldn't be a problem
When
with
football
noise.
doesn't use that field, soccer uses that field, so on some of our diagrams, it's called a soccer field.
Yeah, and that field's going to get lights eventually, so yeah.
Further questions for Cassie from council?
I just have a quick question. This cost will, because I was noticing I was having a diagram on how to put them together. Will our staff or Alan's people have to put them together? Is that, or is
Mhm.
that?
And install them.
So this
Right,
is
yeah,
just
it does
for the
not include
bleachers?
install. Correct.
Okay. I had another question and it's gone, so it must not have been important. Oh, so it's about $5,000 extra that we didn't budget for it, so where will we get that? Where are we looking to pull the money from?
It's actually 10.
10?
Yeah, it's about 5,000 per bleacher. With all the costs for that. And yeah, we're looking to pull that out of capital assets fund.
Does insurance pay for some of that?
Well, it's an accounting thing, really. The revenue comes into general fund, and,
Well, we have budgeted 16 and it's going to cost 21.
Correct, because our budget for 16 was for 2 new ones we were going to add. We didn't expect to, have to replace 2 additional, which is how we ended up with 4. Yeah.
And how quickly will we know? Or just if we get the money in, is that something that you bring to us? I'm just new at this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the insurance proceeds, we expect a total of around $26,000, and that's for a variety of things that were damaged. When we get that in its entirety, we can bring that back to you as just an update that we received it. With the FEMA proceeds, it's a very complicated and lengthy process, and we've submitted our request, but we won't bring that back to you until we know more about what they will accept and what we might get funding-wise, because that obviously will impact our budget for this fiscal year, and that's something we'll talk about in our budget presentation a little bit later, too. So, but good question.
Any further? I'll open up for public. Okay, this time open up for public comment on agenda item 9. Hearing none, back to council.
Make a motion to approve an award of request for bid number 16-17-03 for the recreation bleachers to Cape Park Recreation Corp.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Passes. Thank you, staff.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for putting them together.
Thanks, Patsy, appreciate it very much. Okay, moving on to agenda number 10, discuss, take action on resolution number 987. Jim?
Resolution number 987, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, establishing policies, procedures, and fee schedule for use of Satellite Beach facilities, repealing resolution number 966 and providing an effective date, reading resolution number 987.
Motion to adopt resolution 987.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer.
I'll second
I
that.
have a second by Councilman Gibson. Discussion?
Yeah, I talked with Cassie at the skate park opening about some concerns that people that use the dog park have. As far as times the dog park is open and the fact that they're using the fields on DeSoto and they're walking dogs other places because they can't get into the park. And, I'm also we're looking at doing away with some of the fees at the skate park. And I realize this doesn't exactly apply to what we're talking about, but why don't we look at the possibility of doing something different at the dog park so that people can go in there and use the dog park from when when it's light in the morning to when it gets dark at night, with some different type of access into the park and look at maybe waiving some of the fees. You pay for, whatever electronic key that you have to use to get in there, you pay for that. But as far as utilizing the park itself, I mean, if we're going to let people use the skate park free, we should probably be able to let people use the dog park free, as long as they provide the information on the vaccinations and things that they need to do. I'd like to see us look at the potential of probably doing something like that with the dog park, because we're already establishing a policy of not charging for the skate park.
On that, we just have consensus to let the staff look at it.
Take a look at it.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I know I heard one other thing, like Doug said, that it was more of an access, that because the skate park is so popular, being number one, and that when you do have stuff going on in the fields, that people say, I couldn't get in there to park and walk my dog if I wanted to. There's so far and out there. And if you are paying to use the park and in there, you can't really get to it. I can understand the angst by some of the residents in there, so should look into that, see what we could do.
Mayor, we'll be happy to look into that for you. I wanted to just briefly cover what this item entails for the public. So just this resolution makes really two changes to our existing fee policy for recreation. One is, as was mentioned, removal of any charges for use of the skate park, and the other is a change to the deposit for the Pelican Beach Clubhouse. All of our facilities, I think, that require a deposit have been $100 deposit for quite some time. And we've just had some incidents at the Pelican Beach Clubhouse where people have not treated the facility with the proper amount of respect, and it's caused some damages that we've had to repair at some cost to the city. So we're simply asking to increase the deposit at that facility from $100 to $200, and that was approved through the Recreation Advisory Board. So those are the only changes in this item I just wanted to mention.
Question. I remember talking to staff on the situation that happened up there. Is $200, I mean, if you went and rented another facility.
It's comparable to the other ones.
Comparable?
Yeah,
Is that going to cover?
we brought that to the board,
Is that
all the
enough?
different prices, locally, and I don't think they wanted to make it cost prohibitive, so they settled on
I just want to make sure
200.
we're covered, because the last time when it was $100 and that incident happened up there, I'm sure it cost the city a lot more than $200 worth of man time and so forth to cover it. So I just want to make sure that, not more of a deterrent to put someone out, because if they keep it clean, they're getting the money back. But is that a reasonable fee for it? And does it cover us from what work Alan would have to do, or the cleanup staff there?
I think it's enough for people to pay attention to what they're supposed to be doing there, which was really our concern. The language for the contract that they signed to use it is such that if we needed to cover damages, excessive damages, that I think that falls on the renter.
So the $200 that we're looking at charging for a deposit, that's comparable to what the county charges for the facility down at in Indian Harbor,
Yeah, we
and
looked
the
at
one
the
on US
county, we
1.
looked at the Rossiter House, we looked at the Cocoa Village, Porcher House, all of those.
Yeah, those are usually
So-
facilities where there's staff on premise, though, too, that would hopefully prevent any damage.
Not the
like-
county
Yeah,
facilities.
the county ones
Yeah.
don't, but the Port Share House, I know they do,
Right.
they have people there.
I got a question for Jim. Sorry. When you say contract we have, can we recoup our costs for damage for that, or is it limited to $200?
Chase them down.
Well, I haven't looked at the agreements regarding those facilities in a long time, but, I mean, normally if there's a damage, then the city can always go after somebody for damages, or whether it's in a contract or not, per se. I mean, unless there's a, I doubt seriously it is, but unless there's a limitation of liability, the city's agreeing that their limitation of liability is the deposits, or security deposits, then the city can go after them anyway.
And
The city has to make a determination on whether or not they can do that.
And Mayor, I think the other thing too is, because we did talk internally about whether 200 was a reasonable number, and whether it was sufficient. And, our intention at staff level is, being that this went through the Recreation Advisory Board, that's what they recommended. Our intention is to just monitor as we do with other things, and if we feel that that's not sufficient, we'll bring it back to the board and bring it back to you.
Suzanne just covered it. I think we're good. I mean, we can always go back and raise it if we have to, but we can go with what staff's recommendations are, I think, so.
I have a quick question. Have we had this, I know you're speaking of one, I don't know about the incident you're talking about, have we had a lot of incidences, or was it just one real major one?
Well, there are a couple that I can think of, and Alan or Cassie both can probably give more details. The one that, a couple that resonate with me, we had one where there was damage to the sink itself, I believe. I don't know if we had to fully replace the sink. Alan, if you have more, you want to come up, talk about that. And then we had another one where they actually damaged the exterior of the building by putting nails or something in it.
Yeah, one particular party actually attached a gazebo type thing to the roof structure of the building. And when they pulled it out, of course, they left all kinds of damage to the fascia and the subfascia. So we had to go back in there and repair that, I think the biggest issue that we have is the cleaning of the building, because on a Friday night, you have a function in there, and then you have somebody renting it first thing on Saturday morning. So those folks are responsible for cleaning from Friday night. They're responsible for cleaning, basically taking their trash out and doing all that. And so that our guys can go in there and spend a couple hours mopping the floors, cleaning it up, so it's ready for the next group to come in. Well, we found quite a few incidences that people just leave that night with the intention of coming back the next day and cleaning up. Well, that can't happen because we have somebody else coming in there, so that puts the park staff 2 to 3 to 4 hours behind, because now they have to basically take down all of the things that are up there and tote them to recreation, because you don't want to throw them away because they belong to somebody. So, on and on, and a few of the folks made the statement, I'd rather pay you $100 to do it than for me to, be inconvenienced by doing it ourselves. So that's how the conversation began about raising it.
Well, that's the comment that bothers me, is there obviously is a price. So if we do rent that place, we rented a ton, and if it's back-to-back like that, then obviously this seems to be causing an issue between rentals, especially on the weekend.
Right. And it puts our guys behind in doing what they need to do at the beach park, at, the ball fields, because those guys take care of, the ball fields, cleaning the ball field restrooms and things like that. So, it's just it's a domino effect.
I would be much more in favor of increasing the deposit a little bit. And are we letting the people know that it has to be cleaned when they leave? Then if we're cleaning it up the next...
We go through the contract with them while they're standing there and they sign it. A lot of times what people do is they come pick up their keys, they hand the keys off to who's ever going to be setting up or breaking down for them, and then that person never sees the rules.
Right.
So
I would say we go up on the deposit to maybe $300, and if that's the case and we're doing that, keep the $300 for the time that your people spend doing what they're doing. It's pretty obvious that, it's been explicitly explained to them what needs to be done. If they're handing off the keys and they're not responsible enough to explain that to
and it's not
whoever's-
everyone, like, as Alan
No,
said,
but I'm just saying
the
it's-
rentals, the rentals are back to, it's full all the time.
Yeah.
And we've probably kept 4 deposits since January 1st. So,
Yeah, but of those 4 that you kept, how much did it cost your people in time? Was it more than $100?
well, the one where they nailed, to the roof and everything,
Well, another idea is there could be a security deposit and a cleaning fee. that's a double whammy. I don't know if that would help with drive home the message, that if you leave it messy, you're paying this, and if you tear it up, you're paying this on top of that. So you got two fees tied together rather than just one large fee, you've got two tied together. I'm just throwing it out there.
Kind of a feeling I have here is this, we went through a rec board, we have a process. So my feeling is we're up in it. Let's see what it looks like over the next few months. And then if it's still an issue, we revisit it. Jim?
Another thing too is we can try and tighten up the language, at least for the clubhouse, and just, legal documents, I'm sure you've seen it in bold print, you can add things like that for that particular facility, because that seems to be the only one we're having a problem with. And that, they're put on notice, and, maybe, what Cassie says is what's going on with some of the issue is that, whoever's going to be the responsible party is going to be the responsible party.
Right.
Do we want to hold on to that?
Put that and basically emphasize that point, so that then handing up fees to somebody else isn't going to solve the problem.
The price of the clubhouse is very reasonable compared to other rental facilities in this area, which is why I think it's as popular as it is. We deposit everything. We take the rental fee and the security deposit, and we deposit it all. We don't hold on to anything. So if we're expecting somebody to pay a $300 deposit and pay $350 for the rental itself, you're doubling the cost of that facility. Yeah, they're getting it back, but I mean, that's going to be cost prohibitive for people, and I think we will see a lot of people choose to go elsewhere.
At this time, let me open up for public comment, and then we'll bring it back for further discussion. Open for public comment on this agenda item.
Can I just say, do the board ask you to do?
Thank you. Any further comment? We'll bring it back to council. My feeling, we have these boards, we entrust them to meet, and if we always go against them, they're not going to have a good look on us either, because that's why we put them there. So my feeling is you have it pretty under control. Take a look. Jim, if you need to look at the language a little bit in the contract, and if we continue having the problem, then let's readdress it. You can, your board can readdress it, and I think if somebody thinks, my feeling is that you're going to get it back, then you don't mind putting it out. So there's got to be a fee that's reasonable for that you're not gonna
not want to do. And I would expect when we have a brand-new facility there, in the coming years, we're going to relook at fees and security deposit, because you're maintaining a much newer, nicer facility than is currently there. So.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
You already did it.
We did? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. We've got on here. Any further? No. Okay. Lenore?
Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, passes. Thank you. Yes. And maybe keep us informed on this, or staff, so we have a feeling in a few months how's it going. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11, discuss take action on withdrawing from the Insurance Service Office Incorporated Community Rating System. Johnston.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Careful.
Spring weather. Well, we were recently notified by the Insurance Services Office Community Rating Systems. They basically rate the communities for the National Flood Insurance Program, and therefore rates are established for your flood insurance based on the ISO. I started digging into the requirements, and it just went on and on and on. And then when I started really breaking it out as to what I needed to do, several things kind of fell into the lap of Quentin Hampton, our city engineer. One of those had to deal with a lot of the documentation that dealt with mapping, new mapping requirements. The NFIP, they've went with what they call D-firms, digital firm maps, flood insurance rate maps, and they're basically forcing everybody into that mapping as well. And its action item here is in the prior package, but that proposal from Quinton Hampton was about $10,000 just for the mapping portion of it. You can see all the other documents that are in there that have to be gone through and completed, as well as supporting documents of that documentation. So in addition to all this work, what I'm really looking at is the cost benefit of doing this. And I think probably one of the most telling documents in here is that what-if sheet that's provided by the CRS folks. That what-if sheet basically shows that we're a Class 8, and as a Class 8, first off, the discounts that are generated from being part of the program only are discounts for those in the special flood hazard area. For the most part, that's the direct oceanfront properties, and not all of them. It really just depends on how far landward you are. The typical premium discount we're looking at is about $29 per policy, depending on what type of special flood hazard you're in. So it's very little for the amount of cost and effort that we put into it to participate in this program. Only about 50% of the communities in Brevard County even participate in it. They have essentially, and me talking to my counterparts, have gotten to the point that we're at here today, looking at the cost benefits of it. It was my opinion that the cost benefit just really isn't there. I met with the CRS folks, and they really didn't have a good argument as to why we should continue with it. Added to that, Courtney put me together with some folks from Stetson University, and through a Fortescue grant, they are doing some other projects for us, and the CRS was kind of an integral part of that grant. So initially when I contacted them, they were pro-CRS because that's really what their grant was focused around. The more we started talking, they started looking at the documentation, particularly this what-if sheet, the more they started realizing that it probably is not a benefit to us. This Jason Evans, I think is the gentleman's name. Yeah, Jason Evans from Stetson. His opinion is what's going to come out of this, because there is a move towards people opting out of the CRS, is that eventually you're going to find a threshold where it absolutely makes sense. Give an example. Miami-Dade area, huge problems with floods down there. Sea level rise. They save millions of dollars a year just by the participation in the CRS, and they have a complete staff solely that deals with the CRS for that purpose. We don't have a dedicated staff. It's just one of the things that I try to keep up on with all the other responsibilities. It's becoming more and more difficult as they continue to add more and more documentation for this very little benefit we get out of it. The direction of the NFIP is through like the Biggs-Woddard Act and our model floodplain ordinance that was handed down by the National Flood Insurance Program is a very strong ordinance that we were pretty much forced into adopting, as Jim knows. They didn't give us a lot of wiggle room when they handed us an ordinance that this is what you will adopt, with very little exception. The direction is to take those special flood hazard areas or properties and remove them from either the special hazard area by elevating or relocating, and that's done in a series of different ways, one of them being through substantial damage and substantial improvement, which we have to track every property that's in a special flood hazard area and every project that they do to that property, and when it reaches 50% of the replacement value of that structure, they have to mitigate that entire structure, meaning raise it, put it on grade beams and piles, nearly impossible to do. That's one of their ways of trying to remove these subsidies that, for the last 5 years anyway, they've made it really clear that the program is upside down, and they're making some major steps going forward to try to deal with these properties. If we were to opt out, it would not change our best practices. What we do today, we will continue to do. The only difference is we won't be participating in the CRS program, where it's heavy on all this documentation. This model floodplain ordinance that we have we have to continue to support in order to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, which is what enables people to have flood insurance. That won't change. We are one of the few communities in the state of Florida that have no repetitive losses. There's a reason behind that. It's because of what we do every day to support a strong floodplain ordinance. That will not change. That's about what I have. If there's any questions.
The mapping. Yes. Didn't we just do that in the sustainability plan that we had? I've seen those maps to see where we sit in the flood zone when hurricanes and so forth. Didn't we do that?
We did, but it's not the same map. Okay. The FIRM map, the flood insurance rate map, is very specific. They generate it, the NFIP, and of course they're contractors. They create that map. That is the only map that can be used. There's, for instance, the Stetson Group. They're looking at a map that they find concerning because it's a lot more aggressive. It's called a HAZUS map. But again, the HAZUS map has nothing to do with the NFIP. So
even though it covers all this?
Yeah. Yeah. To answer your question, we had these folks at Stetson take a look at a lot of the maps that they're generating through this FORTA-C grant and other maps that are available and see if that would have taken care of a lot of the mapping requirements. It didn't line up. So that 10 grand is just right off top. That's what we're going to have to spend. And the problem is we don't, as of yet, have a GIS department at all. Now, the good news is we recently brought Nick Stanzoni on board, who has some GIS experience. So down the road, we've already started working, getting him involved in the GIS. So we will be at a point, at some point here, where we will have some level of GIS, and that may make it easier. And opting out of the program doesn't mean you're banned from ever going into the program. So you can leave it and you can come back. And the thing about it coming back is it wouldn't be any more difficult than what we got to go through today.
GIS mapping. Isn't that what Stetson's doing for us?
They are doing some mapping.
I thought it was GIS mapping.
They are doing some GIS mapping. But it's not all the maps that they're looking for. Basically what I did is I handed them everything that you see in your package that dealt with, well, all of it, that included the mapping and stuff. And I handed it off to the Stetson guys and said, look at this, see if there's anything here that you guys are already doing that we don't have to pay Quentin Hampton to do again. And there was really nothing that lined up.
So you have this one government organization that wants the map done their way, kind of, because we've already done it with another government organization that accepts this?
Right. Well, maps are created by different models. It's not like, taking a picture of a map and you got the same picture. There's a lot of modeling that goes into how they determine and project these sea level rises and hazardous zones. That's why the HAZUS map, which is the one that Jason primarily deals with, is a lot more aggressive of a map. And his concern is when he initially looked at this, he said, wow, I'm looking at this HAZUS map, and it looks like you guys are going to have some problems here in a few years. However, that is not the maps, that is not the FIRM map. The FIRM map is completely different, and their modeling is different. And it's designed strictly for the National Flood Insurance Program. So the maps that the CRS folks are looking for are the maps that line up with the National Flood Insurance Program.
Okay.
And again, that's just a small component of the requirements.
Understand.
And Mayor, also just sort of add, the requirements of the CRS program, when you look through some of the stuff that's in the agenda packet, but just to summarize it, they're not looking for one map. They're looking for multiple maps with a lot of different types of data. We can go through that, but to what John is saying, the map that you're thinking of and the stuff we just went through, that's completely different. That's just a singular piece. This is that's why it was going to cost us, $10,000 plus to have consultants create these maps for us so we could continue to participate in this program. And that's the reason we brought it to you, simply because of the cost-benefit analysis. We just didn't see the value there.
Given what these maps entail for 10 grand, is there any other portion of our community, sustainability, whatever, that we're going to have to do these maps? I mean, is there any other benefit from us?
I don't believe so. There's some really good maps out there that the sustainability folks are currently using, as well as, these guys from Stetson, like the HAZIS maps. So there's a lot of great information out there, just not necessarily the information that the CRS people are looking for.
But we have the information we need in our community to make it safe in these.
I believe we do. I think we have some great resources.
Sorry, take it.
Another question. It sounds about par for government and state entities. I mean, just to give you an example, if you go and you get a background investigation for a driver's license, you can't use that for a background investigation for a concealed weapons permit. You can't use that for another background investigation for any other state things that you do, even though you do it for the state. You can do it multiple times, but everybody wants their own put in, which is like this. They want their particular map for this particular reason.
I just want to make sure, 10 grand, big amount of money, small amount of money on another hand. I just want to make sure that somewhere down the line, that all of a sudden we're saying we need it, when if we did it because we have another need for it, then you cover both. Yeah. But piece, I mean, I understand it.
And I think we got to make sure too is we're just talking about 10 grand for the maps, but that's not the only thing we're talking about. Right? There's a whole bunch of other expenses.
Yeah, these are one-time maps too. Where I was going with, we definitely as a city need GIS. There's no question about that. And I think we're on a path to get us there. With Nick, and he's got some classes that he's going to be signed up for. So we are going to be creating some maps ourselves. We've already talked about some of the maps that we need to have in here in-house that are going to be more like a living document, things that we can update as new business, or not business model, but new models come about. But I don't see this one-time expense for these, I wouldn't say one-time use maps, but the maps that will certainly be outdated by the next time we got to do this again. I think we're better off stepping out of it and coming back at a later date when we're more prepared to participate in the program. And one of the reasons why, again, half the cities in Brevard County have opted out is they're also small cities, and they don't have the departments, which was fine. I've been involved in it now for over 10 years, and it has continually grown. And I swear some of the stuff that they ask us for, they don't even know what they're looking at. They're just asking for it.
You said 50%.
Yes.
I just want to make sure on this, insurance is critical, especially flood. If you're West Melbourne, are you one of the 50 that opted out? Just so everybody here knows they don't have our backup information.
Yeah. Well, there's
I know we have it.
Did you see? There's a matrix in there that basically shows all the cities and their rating. So as far as West Melbourne is not participating.
Yeah, the opt-outs include Cocoa Beach, Indian Harbor Beach, Indy Atlantic, West Melbourne, Palm Shores, Scottsmore, and Mims. So those are all Brevard County cities, most beachside, that have opted out.
That's what I wanted.
And to answer your earlier question, based upon my assessment and reading of all the different types of maps they're requiring, there may be a chance that a handful of the maps would be useful to us later on, but the vast majority are very specific for this program and wouldn't service any future purpose.
It sounds to me like there's several components that go into this, and the $10,000 that we would be looking at just for mapping is just one part of one of those components.
Very much.
When we look at, the return average in our city of $29 off of somebody's premiums, based on the fact that we could be spending more than $10,000, and it's a one-time deal, I'm going to look at staff's recommendation.
I think it's important to note that the only people that get those discounts are those that are in that special housing. The majority of, there's less than 30% of the residents in Satellite Beach are in a special flood hazard area. If you look at that what-if sheet, you'll see the lion's share, that 70% of the residents that have what they call a PRP, or preferred risk policy, they have a big goose egg. That's how much discount they get for our participation and the staff's time dealing, not to mention costs, in dealing with the participation in the CRS.
Thank you. Maybe at this time, if it's okay, you have more, I was going to open up for.
No, I'm good.
I just want to open up for public comment on agenda item 11. Hearing none, back to council.
I'll make a motion to approve withdrawal from the Insurance Services Office Community Rating System for the National Flood Insurance Program. I don't think us having to do what's being asked us to do, which has exponentially increased over the years, is beneficial.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Osmer. I have one, I apologize, question.
Yeah.
We can get back in this if we need to.
Yes, a couple things. I was just recently at the floodplain conference where I got to sit down and meet with the CRS people as well as the NFI people. And you absolutely can go back in. You just got to go through and fill out all the documents and do that. And the other thing I also looked into was whether or not we could put it off a year. And what they told me was, first off, the answer is no to that. You have a cycle visit every 5 years. They will call you up anywhere from 3 to 5 years and say, hey, we need to see you next month. Had it been, the cycle visit had it been at 3 years, then we could have pushed it out a year. But since we were last cycled in 2012, it's a drop dead. So.
Any further questions? Put on. Thank you.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. John, thank you.
My pleasure.
Everybody. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 12, discuss, take action on ordinance number 1139. Jim?
Ordinance number 1139, an ordinance of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending the FY 2016-17 budget ordinance number 1127, providing an effective date. It's the first reading of ordinance number 1139.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I thought my stuff was technical after listening to that CRS stuff. This is going to be a lot easier, I think. Well, good evening. It's time for the mid-year budget amendment. And we're going to go over where we're at this time of year. It's about halfway through the year. Now, yeah, this is kind of small, but I gave everyone should have a copy of the slide presentation. And this information is also in the packet of information for the budget amendment. This is just a real brief, basically, approved budget, year-to-date, and proposed amended budget. And we're just going to go over each of these pretty much almost section by section as we go through here. So, on the general fund revenues, this is a summary page. This is basically the top portion of that last slide, except with the percent budget to actual. Property taxes are at 93%, and I just wanted to show you this first, and then I wanted to show you what it looks like on a bar graph. Budget to actual, the first section of the first bar of each section is budget, the original budget, and then the second bar is the year-to-date as of March 31st. Which is the 50% mark. You can see with property taxes are pretty much almost all the way collected, and everything else is right around 50% or so. So with ad valorem, we're at 93% collected. That's a little over 5.7 million, and we're not recommending any budget amendment in the ad valorem section. In other taxes, we're 30% collected, $345,000. It looks like it's lower than it should be because we have not collected yet on the insurance premium taxes that usually sent to us closer to the end of the fiscal year. The share of local option gas tax is 37% collected. Communication services tax is 33%, and local business tax is 89%. We gathered most of that actually before the beginning of the fiscal year. And we're also not recommending any budget amendment for this section. Intergovernmental, it's 49% collected, which is pretty much on pace. It includes items such as traffic light maintenance fees, and that's around $21,000 a year. State revenue sharing, we're at 47% collected. Half-cent sales tax, it's 43%. And the pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, is from the Hunt community area, the housing area, and the Air Force Base housing. That's completely collected. We are recommending a $139,000 increase in the budget for that section. Franchise fees, actually, let me take that back. I messed up the slides. That 139 should be in the next section down. There's actually no budget amendment recommended in the intergovernmental section. Franchise fees and permit fees, we are 50% collected. Franchise fees, 28%, and that's because some of those we get after the end of the fiscal year, so they get added into the fiscal year. But building permits, this is the good one, is 144% collected. We're over-collected, and it's mainly due to the Oceana getting ready to put that, actually they're working on putting that building up. And beach fire permit fees are over 100% collected. And this is the section we're recommending the $139,000 increase in budget, mainly because of the building permit fees. Fines and forfeitures, 52% collected. Fines and forfeits, 53%, and parking fines, 73%. So we're doing pretty good in that section. And we're not recommending any budget amendment. Charges for services, 37% collected. We have the school resource officer agreement, if we have one more payment for that. Fire inspection service, we're a little bit slow on the collections on those should catch up. And then the recreation activity and rental fees, we're at 34, and the bulk of our revenue in that is coming up in the summertime. And then no budget amendment recommended for that section. Miscellaneous, we are over collected in that section. We have $35,838. Our interest in investments is 40%. Our contributions, donations are 90% collected as far as budget to actual. Insurance proceeds, of course, when we made the budget, we didn't know we usually don't know what you're going to get in insurance proceeds. I don't even know if we budgeted anything for that. But obviously this year we're getting some because of Hurricane Matthew. So we're getting money there. And then refund prior year expense, that's actually from refunded flood insurance premiums. They changed the flood maps, so we got reimbursement for last year's, and then this year's also is going to be less than what it was previously. And no budget amendment recommended there. Other revenue sources, unassigned fund balance. This is where it gets tricky. Back in, I didn't write down the day of January, February, council approved a purchase of property over at South Patrick and Jackson Court for stormwater. So we had taken some funds from, and you guys, the council approved taking funds from unassigned balance and committed fund balance. So we took the $416,500 from unassigned and the $75,000 from committed. This is in the revenue section because we're actually taking it in from the fund balance, making it a revenue source for the general fund so that we could spend it. So one way or another, it's going to be a revenue and then an expense as well. But it comes out of the reserves. So it's an accounting thing.
That piece of property is in the CRA, correct?
I don't believe that particular one is in the CRA.
Not that
I'm aware of. Did John leave?
I think because if you look at South Patrick, okay, there's two parcels of land there.
One's in it.
One's behind, and the other makes the L coming down towards the rec center, you know, even though it's across the street. If you look at South Patrick, the depth of the CRA, it's most of the commercial lots. Okay? On South Patrick.
I know what you're saying. Well, I know where you're going too, so
I'm just
we'll look
wondering-
at that, yeah.
If it's, does money need to be transferred into CRA?
Well, at current, we did transfer it in the stormwater, because it's technically a stormwater purchase, but if it, I would have thought it would have been researched prior to the property being purchased to find out if it was in the CRA or not, but we guess we'll have to double check on that.
Yeah, I don't recall hearing that came up, but we will check, for sure.
Just
Yeah.
Thinking.
Other pieces of property are.
Mhm.
That's the only reason I'm saying. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. So we have the 416,500 from unassigned and 75,000 from committed, which is a stabilization reserve, and 491,500 transfer to stormwater utility, because it's a stormwater purchase. And I mentioned the property. And it's being used for stormwater treatment. And then just an additional, almost 2,000 is used to cover what our projected or our estimated deficit in revenues over expenditures will be at the end of the year. Now, general fund expenditures, we're a little bit over expended, and mainly that's due to good old Hurricane Matthew. I'm going to go basically department by department here. This is what it looks like, budget to actual. So some departments doing better than others, but we're getting there. It's actually a lot of material this year, so we ramped it up a little bit. So I separated out from personnel budgets and operational budgets. Most personnel budgets were impacted by the use of overtime for Hurricane Matthew. However, some personnel budgets saw savings in vacation and sick leave fallback, and the workers' comp cost adjustments. The main increase in personnel budgets was due to the addition of the environmental coordinator position, which was approved. Overall, personnel budgets increased by $21,351. We had just under 1,000 decrease in city clerk's office, 35,000 increase in support services, which is where the environmental coordinator position is funded. We had a $10,000 decrease in police department budget, $15,000 decrease in fire department, $11,754 increase in building and zoning. It's mainly due to coverage while unemployed was on maternity leave. $1,356 decrease in public works department for now, and $1,652 increase in recreation department. Under operational budgets, city council no change, city clerk's $4,124 increase, mainly due to the storage facility that we're going to be moving our records out into a storage facility. Support services, no change in operational. General government services, we had a $28,500 increase in operationals. We had spent more than expected so far in comp plan with LaRue Planning. Professional services consultants, the council had approved Rochelle Lowndes to do some city code analysis for sustainability, and we also, it's the second year of the annual 911 addressing services. Professional services, in the actuary we actually didn't spend as much as we planned on spending. And then communications with a $6,000 increase, mainly due to Quillan marketing services for the skate park. Continuing in general government services, operating supplies was $11,000 increase due to the approval of the digital and social media services with Space Coast Daily News, that was early in the fiscal year, and also videography services. I don't know why I want to say it that wrong way. Police Department, no change. Fire Department, a slight increase. Public Works, $100,000 increase. This was for the debris cleanup from Hurricane Matthew and was approved by council. Recreation Department was a $23,500 increase due to the scrub area work that was done and the Belfield netting that we had to replace some due to the hurricane.
Suzanne, on $100,000 for Public Works, I know we authorized that to be done. Did we ever submit that to FEMA?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
That's
so
part of what we submitted.
That's part of it, like when you talk about the money that's potentially going to come back, when that money comes back, it would get divvied into the appropriate.
It would essentially because we're using, fund balance reserves for covering the overage, that's essentially where those funds would end up. Just ballpark figures for you, we submitted over $300,000 in claims to FEMA. Some of those are the direct costs we feel operationally, like the debris cleanup costs, but some of those are costs that we've just absorbed, like the overtime. You can also request reimbursement for use of equipment, vehicles, which is not something we obviously track here, but, So we've submitted as much as we possibly can, and then, as you may know, there's a varying rate of FEMA reimbursement. Depends on what period of time the work was done in. If you're like in the first 30 days after the storm, 60 days, 90 days, the percentage that they will cover of your costs drops as you go further away from the storm, particularly when it comes to debris cleanup, because they want to incentivize people getting it done sooner, which was important to us, as you all know. But anyway, I say that just to put some context into it. We asked for $300,000. We're not going to get $300,000, but that's us telling them every possible bit of money we spent on the storm.
So if we have 3, and realistically a figure would be half?
I think that's a reasonable ballpark at this point, not knowing what FEMA's going to kick back and argue with us on, because it is a process.
So if that 150 went back in the general fund reserves, correct?
Correct.
The 493 then would be less.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Plus, because I like to keep this reserve up, because when we have to buy things for stormwater and so forth, when I understand this is where that money is for. So we sell the property on A1A.
That is in the CRA.
That's in the CRA.
And that is going to be a very tricky configuration of who gets the money, where it goes. But
And the other reason is why I want to make sure that other piece of property
Yes, that's a good question.
is, if it is in the CRA, then a portion of, we could get something back then, correct, into this fund? Because if we spent money
That should have been
CRA, then and if this property we sell is CRA funds, then this number at 493,000 is going to look
It would
better.
change, right. But we'll verify that, because it's a great question. I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you tonight, but we'll find out.
Again, making
Always gotta
sure
be
we're
thinking.
working at hurricanes. And, this was a good chunk of money that needs to be there.
Right.
Because chances are we're going to, get a few. And we need that money to get by until FEMA reimburses. And obviously, if it's $300,000 floating out there, it'd be nice to know what have we spent all the time and get an average, knowing when an event like that happens, it's going to cost our budget every time $200,000 that we're not going to get reimbursed for.
Yeah, that's probably a little trickier.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Just because you don't know how much the damage is really going to be and how
Understand.
long. But I understand your point.
An average over the X number of years might help us stabilize that. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry to take time.
Yeah, that's okay. We're on the same page. The general goal is to keep building reserves
Okay.
at the end of the day.
Well, we kind of have a requirement to do that.
Yes.
So this is a new addition to the presentation, is actual showing reserves balances from beginning of the year, kind of the changes that are being estimated, and then the ending estimated reserves. So if you look at the beginning reserve section, and I know the wording is a little hard to understand. Unassigned is basically any funds that we can use basically for whatever council decides they want to use it for. Committed reserves is the name that's used it's for the stabilization reserve, but committed is the technical finance term for that. And non-spendable is basically prepaids. So it's just kind of like a placeholder. Those monies are from the beginning of the year, and then they're expended this year, and then generally from year to year, it's the same, so you don't want to move it out of that slot, because otherwise you might end up with less money than you think you have. So this is an estimated ending fund balance at the end of the year, based on all the information I just presented to you. And we're also, of course, still waiting for FEMA reimbursement, and we just had that big discussion on the reimbursements and the properties, and we also are very conservative on our estimates as far as revenues and expenditures, so we're looking like we're going to be better than that, but we want to give you the worst case scenario.
So the ending reserves at
Mhm.
786, that could easily be boosted when FEMA gives us back whatever that portion is, correct?
Correct. That's where you would see that impact, yeah.
Because that's basically the money we could touch.
Yeah.
That figure right there is if
Mhm.
something, in an emergency comes up, it's
We
the
can touch
only...
anything if we have a vote by council.
Well, for the committed reserves, you have a stabilization policy where council can allow the use of the funds as long as there's also a way for it to be replenished.
Put back in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell. More complicated
Quick
than that.
question, is this typical to see this kind of a shrink down?
No.
No.
This is due to the purchase of the property and,
The hurricane.
Hurricane.
and the hurricane, yeah.
It's both those are
Are we going to be able to get anything from the half-cent sales tax for any of the stormwater purchases that we voted in? Do we know? Will we be getting any monies for that?
not for the things we've already taken action on and moved forward with now. For future projects, we would have to submit and be considered for that funding.
Mhm. So we're really hoping and waiting on the Peg Legs property to sell and get that taken care of.
We've got to figure that scenario out.
Right, we'll look at the CRA question, but the things that we know we can count on right now, at some point, timing is the question, is the FEMA reimbursement and, you know, yeah, exactly.
But if we need more, again, this is going to be
Yeah.
a floating fund.
Exactly.
To a point.
Mhm.
Because if we have other stormwater issues or anything, you have to purchase land. This is where that comes from, correct?
Yes and no.
Potentially, it depends upon the purpose, so you can take money from stormwater fund if it's a
Yeah,
stormwater.
the stormwater
purpose.
fund in the past couple of years has been really low because of,
We've been using it.
but we've been slowly been building that back up again. So there's a little bit there, but I wouldn't, there's other funds that still have money. So we're not like in dire straits, but.
And just keep in mind too, this is a 6-month where we're projecting, estimating what the next 6 months could potentially bring us. And we presented it to you in a very conservative standpoint because we wanted to be transparent and show you where we could end up. We don't think we will. And I want to reemphasize Jennifer's point. The way that we budget is we underproject our revenues and we overproject our expenses so that we always will be in a better position than we think we will be, if you know what I mean, you know, so.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Barring
Right,
hurricanes, let there be no
exactly.
more, right? But, you know, that's kind of the point I just wanted to make, that this is just something we wanted to bring to your attention, but we're not concerned that this is where we will end the year. Again, barring hurricanes, thank you.
Well, ready to move on to other funds? Get a little bit better news, I guess. Community Services Fund. This is where the recycling fund is, the Sampson Island Fund, Beautification Fund, Advanced Life Support Fund, Police Donations Fund, and Recreation Trust Fund. So these are each of the balances for each of those sub-funds, we want to call them that. And we're basically increasing this fund 88,022, and it's due to an increase in public education and the recycling trust fund of $6,500. And the use of some of the donation money the police department has used to purchase phasers, the rifle optics and scopes, and they are planning ahead and trying to budget a little extra to cover future minor expenditures. They also purchased the Citizens on Patrol cop car out of the donated money, and that was originally budgeted under the capital assets fund. Stormwater utility fund, we're decreasing $309,000, and that's mainly due to the DeSoto stormwater project it's not being pushed off, but it's not happening as quickly as we anticipated, so it's going to be happening. Actually, we're looking to start construction hopefully in 2018. So we purchased the property. We are deferring the DeSoto stormwater project. We also have funded the Lori Lane engineering, and that's mainly in preparation for the Glenwood improvements that's actually going to help. I think that's as part of the capital assets fund, one of the things that's going to be covered by the note. And storm sewer maintenance is, we're going to increase that. I'd like to increase that 18,000 to help. This is something that might be coming up to, there's an area between Indian Harbor Beach and the city that needs to be cleaned up, but it's kind of in holding pattern at the moment.
And we're talking about a canal that we share with.
Behind Satellite Ave.
Right.
So again, I have the beginning reserves, the change in reserves, and the ending projected reserves for this fund. And like I said, we're slowly building this one back up. It's at 150, or projected to be at 152. So I do get revenues from that fund, so not doing too bad. Law Enforcement Trust Fund, no activity, no change. Community Redevelopment Fund, we're going to leave it as is right now. It's mainly just been just operational things and some those signs, the beach access signs. Not a lot going on there. Capital Assets Fund. A lot of activity in this fund. I'll find it on my page here. So we're actually increasing expenditures. We would like to increase expenditures almost 200,000, and this is the breakdown of all the different items we're looking at. The annual street repaving projects are eliminated this year. We're decreasing that line item by 50,000. Garage doors replacements, we're decreasing 18,460. The ADA compliant doors, I think there's one we're not doing, or that's why it's being reduced by 3,600. Civic Center renovations, we're decreasing that line item 45,000. We're going to expense it in the CRA for now because that's the other fund. We're actually splitting that between two funds. The health clinic construction, we had not budgeted that in the beginning of the year because we thought we were going to do it last year, so we have to basically rebudget it this year. The DRS panel renovations decreased 55,000 because we did the work in-house, and it's only costing 20,000 instead of 75. Skate park renovations, this line item's increased 143.35 because we're basically reallocating the money from FY16 to FY17 to cover that cost. And this goes the same with the tennis court relighting. This was approved last year, but got done beginning of this year. Roof and floor replacements, both those line items we decreased, and we're deferring that to basically next year. Doing crossover and dock repairs, we're decreasing to 30,000, deferring that. Sunshade at Sports Park, we decreased 1,705 because it was that much under budget. The ball field netting increased 3,113. This was the one that was by at the, Cassie, what's the one by his house? Grabowski Field. That was that, for that one. And administrative vehicles decreased 1,083, we're under budget there. Police equipment and vehicles decreased 34,000. The cop car was paid in the police donations fund, and they're deferring the locker to next year. And fire equipment decreased 43 for deferring that. Fire vehicles increased 328, 364, and the reason for that is because we had a lease purchase of a vehicle, and when the first year of a lease, you budget the total cost of the vehicle, and then you also budget the revenue to offset. It's an accounting thing. Public works equipment, we decreased 3,000. It's more deferrals. Lease principal for the new fire truck was 85,000. We paid the first payment this year. And then miscellaneous interest increased just about 4,000. And again, there's the list of the fund balance or the reserves before or the beginning of the year, the change, and then the end of the year. And I split out regular capital assets from the money used for the 2.5 million note. So you can see that. Health partial self-insurance fund, nothing.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
On this, and it just might be, I just don't understand. So we're at a negative for the restricted capital assets. What does that actually mean for us long-term? Or we just have to wait till it builds back up again, or?
This is also, again, with the estimated projected by the end of the year. We're hoping to be okay by then, but worst case, we would have to find the money someplace.
Transfer it in. So there's like really three funding sources for projects in this fund. The money comes from general fund, or it comes from the CRA, or it comes from stormwater funds. So this is, again, similar to the discussion on general fund reserves. We put this in here to show you if we make no changes, this is where we would end up. But what would end up happening is this number will change between now and the end of the year as we finish our expenditures and finish out our projects. And when we know what that number is, if it's still a deficit number, then we will pull money out of whatever's appropriate for the given project, you know, whether it's stormwater, general fund, CRA, if that's appropriate. So to answer your question, this is, again, essentially a worst-case scenario we're showing you because of the expenditures thus far and what we would project if we kind of finish everything out where we possibly could at the end of the year, if that makes sense.
That's okay. Questions are fine. So basically, the health insurance fund, there was no change there. We're pretty much on target. And there's the beginning, ending reserves for that. And the mid-year budget amendment summary, it's basically what's stated in the agenda memo. Of course, we're trying to provide you more accurate projections of revenues and expenditures. We're increasing the following funds: general fund, community services fund, and the capital assets fund, and we're recommending a decrease in stormwater utility fund. Any other questions?
Thank you. Questions for Jim? Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, let me open it up for public comment, and then we'll come back. At this time, open up for public comment for agenda item 12. Hear none, back to council.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 1139 to amend the City of Satellite Beach FY 16-17 budget.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Questions? So basically, we're going to be waiting for funds to come in from FEMA and sale of property and so forth and that. So, okay.
Now, isn't it possible that we won't get FEMA reimbursement within this fiscal year?
It is possible, but our expectation is that by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year, we will know what our reimbursement will truly look like. And if we have that certainty of knowledge, we can put it as essentially like a due from other governments, kind of a placeholder. And we could count it in this year. I mean, there's some accounting factors we have to look at, but I expect by the end of this fiscal year, we will really know what that number is going to be. It's just, you know, the
May
long
not have it
process
in our
of
hand.
getting there. Exactly.
I just hear that because I've heard that from other cities that it took, 2.5 years to get reimbursed from FEMA.
Well, I'll tell you, just as a side note, we're very fortunate compared to some of the other cities, because one of the things that drags the process out is a change in your FEMA representative, your project specialist. And we've been through 2, and we submitted everything on our second one. I've heard stories from other cities, but the worst is Rockledge is on their 5th. So what happens when you change, as you can imagine, is sometimes the rules and the way it's being done changes. So we're really fortunate that we got to our second one and we submitted. So for what it's worth.
Thank you, Ben. Further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for your work. Appreciate it very much, everybody. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, discuss take action on agreement with Granicus. Is that the pronunciation? Lenore?
This was a budgeted item already, and before you today is the agreement where Granicus has spelled out their services of what they're going to provide. I'm looking forward to and excited on the software package. It will be an opportunity to be more efficient with our staffing services with our agenda packets, as well as future projections for moving progressively toward maybe like iPads or notepads for council in the future for technology purposes. We're asking tonight for the city manager to be able to be authorized to sign this. Again, this has been included already in this fiscal year's budget, and moving forward, we'll continue to progress with the package and the technology, and hopefully we will see great efficiencies with this, as well as public records will be able to access the information and the subject matters of what goes before council very, very easily.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilman Breimer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Further discussion from council? Hearing none, at this time open up agenda item 13 for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Further? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Lenore. Moving on to agenda item 14, appointments to boards. The 2 we interviewed tonight, obviously, we don't have a place for them at this time, and we need to have a couple reappointments.
Go down.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Sustainability Board Gene Matthews as primary members, term ending 6/17/2020, and Sustainability Board member John Fergus as a primary member with the same term ending date.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Gibson. Discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Thank you.
I asked Lenore when we broke from the last meeting, there were other people that applied for the planning board that didn't get picked for it, and I was wondering if we reached out to them to
I
ask
did
them.
not, because you did not select those that were in that pool. The one person that I saw that you did not address was Paul Marchese, who does have a construction background. And he had come in and asked whether council had opted to select him for the boards he submitted, so I resubmitted his application as a reminder that he was not addressed at that last meeting when you were appointing the PAB members and doing their term dates and changing the term dates for, identifying the term dates for sustainability. So you can select either to appoint or you can postpone, and I can pull, I believe it was Neil Johnson and Mike Rosas were the 2 that were not not
Well,
selected.
Neil
for-
Johnson said he did not want to do it.
Right.
So he's out of
Okay.
the mix, so,
And I didn't realize, I just realized that Josh Paws had resigned from Sustainability too. So is he the Sustainability Board primary member that we're looking for? There's one, is he
Yes,
the,
there
is
is
he that?
also a gentleman that has submitted his application, but he was unavailable for interviews at this meeting because he had a conflict out of town, and he will be coming forward in the month of June for interviews. Zachary Zuckmeyer, I believe is his last name.
the Plan and Advisory Board, and one needs one alternate member.
And Marchese is,
Could be perfect, right?
I'll make a motion to appoint Paul Marchese as a alternate member to the Planning Advisory Board. Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Councilman Breimer. Further discussion? Lenore?
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Okay. So Josh did resign, so that means we would have an opening on that board.
I didn't really think about it when Ryan was here to ask him, but I think that'd be, I mean,
I'd like to keep Ryan on one of those pensions if it comes up because of his expertise for time. And the only reason I say it also is that we have quite a lot of people prior to Ryan that has wanted to be on the Sustainability Board.
I'd like to relook at the.
So let's look at, to give those people a fair shot because those applications are already in. That would be my feeling.
Yeah, it has like a waiting list for that one, so.
So let's look through those again. Is that fair to everybody?
Yeah.
So, you know, they're already out there. Okay. Any further board? Okay. The agenda for May 17th is here. Please take a look at it. And if there's any additions, as normal, please see Courtney or staff on it. Moving on to appoint minutes. We've got a new copy of it here. So a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 5th, 2017 regular meeting minutes as submitted.
Second?
You said April 5th, right?
Yep. Yes.
Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Further questions? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. Any further business? Suzanne, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Meeting is adjourned.